chance, I think it's worth struggling until at least there's no more hope.
And Eska does not stay dejected for long. He's already working on another ancient sample from a different part of the world. And this time, he may just crack it. Although the genetic relationship of the school people to us remains elusive, to experts like Burhani Asfar, they are not a mystery. He believes migrations like the school people have been occurring for millions of years.
It's not only one time that these early humans moved out of Africa. They've been doing it continuously. Like 2 million years ago, there might have been multiple groups of populations moved into Europe and Asia. Whenever conditions change, these prehistoric people, they are not sentimentally attached to one place. They always follow their food. Then as they are following their food, before they know it, they are far from their place where they used to be.
When Homo sapiens began leaving Africa about 100,000 years ago, they were actually following in the footsteps of more primitive species that had begun migrating over 1 million years ago. By 700,000 years ago, one of these early bands had reached well into Europe and Asia. And by 500,000 years ago, they had spawned 2 human-like species. A group called Denisovans and a robust people called the Neanderthals. Homo sapiens would not evolve until about 200,000 years ago. There is genetic evidence of contact among all 3 species. This momentous encounter seems to have been between humans and Neanderthals in the lands of today's Europe. Humans entering Europe about 50,000 years ago found a landscape far different than their African homeland. It was colder, but had bountiful forests, numerous lakes and rivers, a land teeming with wildlife, and even a species of humans that looked and behaved differently. Neanderthals had lived in Europe long before Homo sapiens arrived. But what were they really like? For years, they were depicted as primitive, ape-like and unintelligent. But this turns out to be a very misleading picture.
It's been calculated the absolute volume of Neanderthal brains on average is actually higher than the modern human average. So this is maybe an indication that they were not stupid, they were actually probably quite smart.
At the University of Tübingen, Greek archaeologist Katerina Havati studies Neanderthal fossils for clues to their way of life and their fate.
The Neanderthal lineage lived in Europe for more than 500,000 years, much more strongly built, with quite wide trunks, wide pelvis, a lot of musculature. And Neanderthals tend to have the body shape that is thought to be cold adapted. Now modern humans coming in, early modern humans coming in, they're looking very much more African or warm adapted, in fact, in their body proportions and facial characteristics and so on. And we did not have any of these skeletal or biological adaptations to the cold.
Neanderthals were also lighter skinned than humans coming out of Africa because of the latitude they evolved in.
In northern latitudes, there's less sunlight hitting our skin. It turns out you have to allow a certain amount of sunlight through to the deeper layers of your skin to synthesize vitamin D. So people like me are mutants. We have light skin because we lived in northern latitudes. We adapted to the new environment.
Neanderthals, without question, knew their environment very well. They were expert hunters, But I don't think any modern human had any illusions about the strength of the Neanderthal. They knew they were attacked, they were probably goners.
But humans arrived in Europe with superior weaponry, like bows and arrows and spears they could throw. While the Neanderthals had only developed thrusting spears.
Modern people rely very much on long-distance weaponry. Neanderthals didn't have this sort of weaponry, and they really had to be extremely fit and extremely strong in order to be able to just pull it off.
It is tempting to assume humans used their superior weaponry to kill off the Neanderthals. But recent genetic findings indicate the two groups were closer than once thought.
We know that many people today have around a 2% input of Neanderthal DNA outside of Africa. So clearly these populations not only met and had offspring, but that DNA came through to the present day.
But does the fact that they interbred tell us something significant about relations between the two groups? Were they hostile or not?
I think it's likely that it wouldn't always have been nice. Just like with modern human groups meeting each other. Sometimes it's nice, but more often it's not peaceful. And it involves different degrees of violence, different degrees of assimilation, different degrees of cooperation, and different degrees of just avoiding each other.
But if we didn't kill them off, why did Neanderthals go extinct while our Homo sapien ancestors survived? And can modern archaeology shed light on this enduring mystery? There are mountain caves in southern Germany that were once occupied by Neanderthals, abandoned, and then reoccupied by Homo sapiens, creating a kind of lab experiment for archaeologist Nick Connard to compare the two cultures. He's been unearthing artifacts from each occupation and gives Niobe an insight into his discoveries and how he's interpreting those finds.
The last Neanderthal occupation is about here. Starting here, we have modern humans. And what's interesting is when we look at the material culture that the modern humans made and compare it to the material culture that the Neanderthals made, the difference is like day and night. We find essentially no symbolic artifacts with the Neanderthals, and we find the whole spectrum of every imaginable kind of symbolic artifacts as soon as we get to the period with modern humans.
These are the symbolic artifacts our team has been finding. Carved figurines, many out of mammoth tusk ivory. These are among the oldest figurative art ever discovered and reveal important qualities of the people who made them.
They clearly have to do with ideology, perhaps religious beliefs of these people, and there's no question humans are here doing things that modern humans and no other people have done before.
Among the figurines,
Look at the
Connard's team
flute!
found some of the earliest musical instruments
Oh my goodness, the propaganda.
ever discovered.
When can we prove that people make music? It's here and it's again in this exact period. They clearly have to do with ideology, perhaps religious beliefs of these people. And there's no question humans are here doing things that modern humans and no other people have done before.
Among the figurines, Connard's team found some of the earliest musical instruments ever discovered.
When can we prove that people made music? It's here and it's again in this exact period, slightly in excess of 40,000 years ago. This is the flute one, so the wing of the swan. You can make one of these in an hour. It's not a problem to make it if you have good stone tools. The key thing is the musical engineering to know the exact dimensions and exactly how to play the tools. This one was a gigantic surprise for all of us.
It's an ivory flute And because it's hard and gritty, it would take far greater skill than making a wood flute.
Who would make a flute out of ivory? Whereas this can be done in 1 hour, this takes about 100 if you know what you're doing.
And these are functional flutes. These are actual instruments that we know can play notes.
Oh, definitely, definitely. You can play absolutely beautiful music on them.
I tell you who would do that. That ain't the Afro Asians who didn't care how long it took to build something, as long it was as of quality and it came from the heart. You did your very best and it lasts forever.
Was music, in your view, an important part of keeping a society together? Was music, in your view, an important part of keeping a society together?
Oh, absolutely. I think all of these symbolic artifacts were the glue that held society together. The likelihood that music was played in the caves is 100%. The likelihood that stories were told, that ideas were exchanged, that social interaction was taking place here, in my opinion, is essentially certain.
To the humans who settled in Europe, music and art became the building blocks of a shared culture the Neanderthals may have lacked.
What humans brought with them was imagination. What they brought with them were views of the landscape, of trees, of animals, which were alive.
Which were alive.
We're the wise people. That's
We're the
why
wise people.
Homo sapiens.
You see all these fucking
Sapiens means
people
wise.
all trying to claim our history.
Animals which were alive.
Which were alive. Get into a place of alive.
That's why we're called Homo sapiens. Sapiens means wise. We plan, we think, we imagine, we innovate, and have an ability to communicate that was unimaginable to the Neanderthals.
He's a Neanderthal! And he's saying unimaginable to the
Just how much
Neanderthal.
different Neanderthals were
Oh
from
my
Homo sapiens remains.
Alright, so Neanderthals have a big upper body, small lower body. They're hairy. They have light skin. They don't have afros. Who today is like the Neanderthal? The Caucasoid. They always talk shit like, oh, my arms is longer than yours. My arms is longer than yours. They say, I'm a Neanderthal. I'm a Neanderthal.
But both species would be put to the test by the onset of sudden periods of intense cold, signs that a new ice age was coming.
These events were often very rapid. We know from climate records that some of them happen in less than 10 years. So the human populations in Western Europe would have seen this incredible chaos. So everything they were familiar with just disappearing. All the plants, all the animals, within a few years.
Neanderthals were cold weather people, used to icy
Who's
conditions,
cold weather people?
and as a species had survived twice as long as Homo sapiens. But at the end of this deepest of freezes, it was Neanderthals, not Homo sapiens, that stood on the brink of extinction.
They didn't get extinct. Half of us are Neanderthals. The Caucasoid.
On Siberia's northern frontier, Niobe has come to this frigid and desolate spot to meet another unique group of hunter-gatherers. The Chukchi have been herders for centuries, moving seasonally with the reindeer that are their prime source of food and clothing. Niobe believes Their lifestyle and skills are a reflection of a time when our ancestors somehow survived a global ice age. It is immediately evident they are right at home in a land frozen solid for 9 months of the year. In part, it's because they've been raised here. They have known no other environment. But they have also developed superb cold-adaptive clothing and live in small, heat-saving shelters, both made from animal skins. Vitebsky, who lived with the Siberian nomads and explains their ruggedness in simple terms.
How can you put it into words for me? I suppose the key is you don't have to see the cold as an obstruction or an enemy. Cold actually makes the landscape easier to handle. You can travel immense distances. On a sledge in winter, you can travel hundreds of miles in just a few days. Then there's the food. When you kill animals, the land becomes a gigantic open-air deep freeze. That means you can arrange to ambush, for example, a herd of wandering reindeer, caribou. Slaughter them at far greater scale than you could in the summer. And you just pile them up and use them.
A herder's life is unrelenting. But Niobe observes that it's women's work that keeps the community warm.
I'm not here to show you the whole video. I just want to show you the shit that I think is relevant. We're going to obviously get stuff that aren't relevant, but
The times are rough.
that's what we do.
Social networks suddenly become extremely important. It's very important if you can go to the next group over and somehow be connected to them and somehow be taken in or helped out.
Homo sapiens may have had another advantage. Like the Chukchi, they carefully crafted cold weather clothing.
Clothing was one of the most important innovations.
It's very quick. What we know about Neanderthals is not only are they living in small groups, but the overall population seems to have been extremely small.
By 40,000 years ago, the Neanderthals, Denisovans, and all other archaic species
Get mixed in with humans, and half of us are them. They never
There were
disappear.
4 or 5 species wherever we went, but we were the survivors because we brought with us very sophisticated ways of.
Here it is Neanderthal.
We were the survivors because we brought with us very sophisticated ways of looking at the world.